I have to say I'm humbled and honored to be able to speak to the Center for Common Ground. Um, and first of all, let me say to any readers of mine who are here this evening, because I posted an invitation, thank you for showing up. I know that we all have so much competition for our time. Bless you for showing up this evening for this really very important presentation. Um, I'm going to give 30 seconds on how the newsletter came to be, and then I want to tell you what the most common question is that I get from my readers. I write a nightly newsletter on Substack. It started as a nightly email to my three daughters and my wife after the 2016 election, and it was to help ground them and allow them to engage in the news in a very difficult news environment. And that newsletter got passed around to family friends and then to other friends. And then over time, it got big enough that I had to start sending it out on Constant Contact. And then it got bigger, so I had to move it over to Substack. Largely, I went there because Heather Cox Richardson was there. And so now I have over 50,000 people who subscribe nightly. And, you know, the daily opens are somewhere between 90 and 100,000, sometimes on big nights. Like sadly, in the last week, it was 110,000 on one night. So there are a lot of people reading. And they are all people who are focused on exactly the work that Center for Common Ground is focused on, which is ensuring that they can be contributors to our democracy. And it's not an easy thing to know how to do in this environment. In fact, it's quite confusing because many people were not activists before 2016 and became activists and have found their way to groups and are doing what they can do to help. But, you know, if you do help, if you touch a candidate over here or a party over there, you're deluged with fundraising emails and your name gets passed around. And then all of a sudden, you have no idea what you should do to help besides what you are doing. And the most common question I get from readers is, what's the most effective thing I can do with my money? How can I be the most impactful with what I do? And I always say that supporting groups that support grassroots movement on the ground in the community, talking to people face to face, making the phone calls and knocking on the doors that not everybody can do, and that not everybody can do in the same way. Not everyone is a young person who can communicate with another young person, frankly, in this only the way that young people can communicate with one another. I've been on hundreds of calls with grassroots organizations over the last couple of years, and God bless every single person who is involved in that work. But let's just say this truth out loud. It's mainly women, and it's mainly women of my age, I guess is the best how I can say it. And, you know, we need the young people, we need everyone to be making that face-to-face contact. And that's where Center for Common Ground comes in, where their volunteers comes in. Center for Common Ground allows us to extend ourselves in a way that would be otherwise very difficult. I live in California. In Los Angeles. It's a very blue state. It's safe. I have my hands full with, I'm blessed with three new granddaughters, and they're all very close. And my wife and I spend a lot of time with them, and the rest of my time I spend on the newsletter. And I can't be the one who's knocking on doors in Virginia. But Center for Common Ground can help us support those people. And for my readers who are on this call, I would ask you to very seriously consider that. Over the weekend, or I think it was over the weekend, there was an election in Louisiana. I don't have the specific numbers. I've got sort of general numbers, but it was a seat held by a Democrat. It flipped to a Republican. And let's set politics aside. Let's talk about how many voted. There are about 3 million people who were registered to vote, actually. Of those 3 million, the winner of that election, the Republican governor, got 11% of those eligible to vote. Only 18% of those registered to vote actually came out. And I'm relying on this from unofficial returns. There may be more, but the point is that there was an election. There was the most sacred thing that can happen in a democracy, and we had a turnout that was disappointing, to say the least. And you look at the numbers that Andrea put up, and if you're saying to yourself, how can we prevent another Louisiana from happening? Well, the answer is on the ground, face-to-face communications. And what we can do is support that with our donations. And so I would simply ask those of you, many hundreds or thousands of readers who've asked me the most frequently asked question, what's the most effective thing that I can do with my money? Give it to organizations like Center for the Common Ground. Thank you for allowing me to speak. It has been my honor. Bless you for everything you do.